Ну что ж, всем привет! У нас сегодня с вами особенный день, потому что мы встречаемся с удивительной, прекрасной Робин Лим. И это женщина, которая открыла путь к естественным родам для всего мирового сообщества. Большой вклад при этом очень в русских женщин, для меня в том числе. And you know, Robin, today is my dream come true because I was driving a car today and I was thinking, it's okay, I'm just going on the interview with Robin Lim, I give birth with her soon. And after I'm like, oh my God, it's like now I think it's like so natural thing. But just 2 years ago, it was my dream when I was reading Placenta book and I was reading about you, about your mission, about like, you know, how you taking care of women, how you inspire so many women around the world. And I was dreaming, and it's for me like impossible. You know, I was in Singapore, and it's impossible. And now I just sit in your stand in Bumi Sehat and like, you know, just like having water with you, and I can't believe it's a reality. So thank you so much for making my dream come true. Я так буду сейчас постепенно переключаться на английский, но у нас будут субтитры, чтобы вы тоже могли все видеть. Robin, so thank you so much. I know how busy you are, especially now with this whole COVID situation, you know, when it's not easy times for all of us. So thank you so much for like finding time and sharing your wisdom with us. So please maybe share what's happening now, how situation changing, because I know the whole situation changing in the whole world with COVID. And how's Bumi Sehat? How's your center? How are you?
So the COVID situation is like it's like a giant storm on our earth, and everyone on earth is in this storm, but we are all in our small boats, and it's very lonely. You know, one family in a boat, very isolated. It's for me. I'm very concerned about the spirituality of the mothers. And also the fathers and the children. But I also see that there's a great awakening. For example, the last time we spoke, we had a small interview. You were much smaller in your belly.
Yeah, now I'm guessing like, you know, final stage.
And we still, you know, we didn't know what would happen. But what I notice is people are helping people. They're more generous than ever. They're awakening. The time that they spend at home, they're spending it in a really spiritual space. And I feel like for the children, for the babies, for the next generation, this is important. At Bumi Sehat, we are still, of course, receiving babies into the world. We still have general medicine. There are certain changes, like everyone who comes to the clinic, they get their temperature taken by the reception. If you have a baby in the hospital, and I just came from the US, and also I know in Russia, also here in Indonesia, you're only supposed to go with one companion. For a long time, they didn't allow a mother even to bring her partner. Yeah, it's very difficult because, of course, mothers want to go with they want to bring their partner, they want to bring their doula, they want to bring their mother maybe, and then if they cannot, I mean, even here in the hospitals, I heard from them that the women cannot bring their own pillow. They cannot bring their aromatherapy. They cannot bring their own music. These are all things that, of course, they can all bring to Bumi Sehat. And of course, this is why so many mothers are choosing for giving birth to babies at home, because they need to have the comfort. You know, I mean, sometimes just having your own pillow in labor and bringing your own water, your own juice, your own food, this is something, you know, your own aromatherapy. You should be free to do this. And here at Bumi Sehat, of course. And, you know, of course you can bring your partner, you can bring your doula, you can bring your mother. We are very careful in that during the labor and the birth, we are wearing the protective everything to protect the mother and the baby. The mothers don't wear the mask because they want the baby to see their face. So it's a difficult time. you know.
So how do you find, for example, for pregnant women who have maybe like additional concern about like this whole COVID situation, how maybe to protect yourself,
Yeah.
you know, because I think pregnant women are very vulnerable. How to
Yeah.
protect yourself, like maybe how do you find to make sure you can protect yourself and your baby? during
Yes,
all
but
these times?
remember that in our true indigenous nature, all of us have ancestors going back to the beginning of time. And all of us have in our blood, in our bones, we have an indigenous grandmother that was thousands of years ago. And she didn't go on airplanes, and she didn't go to the mall, and she didn't go to a restaurant. She didn't go to coffee shops. She stayed in her clan with her close family. And this is sort of back to basics, and that's what mothers are doing. I mean, my daughter just had a baby in the US, and I flew there so that I could be with her and hold her hand through the experience, and I could receive my grandchild into the world. All my grandchildren I received into the world. I'm so proud of my daughters and my daughter-in-laws. But all of them, especially now when they're pregnant, they really didn't go out and do much. You know, my daughter went just, for example, on the days you could go to the beach, but she would only go to the beach where there's nobody else, just her husband and her little boy. And she tried to socially isolate because she wanted to protect her baby and herself and the family. Yeah, it was, it's an interesting time. And even also my daughter, her baby, tomorrow will be 42 days old. So for the first 42 days in my family and in Ayurveda and in indigenous cultures all over the world, the first 7 weeks, 42 days is sacred. And the mother doesn't go out, she doesn't do outside things. She just stays with the baby, breastfeeding, home, and being honored as a goddess.
So it's like a bubble, you know, bubble before just to stay in your sacred bubble and bubble after.
I call it the baby moon, like a honeymoon, baby moon. And so my daughter, her baby moon will be finished tomorrow, and she wants to do something to celebrate it. So she and her older sister, they're going to make some kind of ceremony at home. Normally, without COVID, they would go to maybe a special Japanese restaurant or something like this, but because of COVID, they want to protect the baby. They're just going to do something special at home.
Beautiful.
But she said, I'm not planning something special with my husband. I'm planning something special with my sister, because for her, she needs the woman time. Yeah, so I will be by WhatsApp joining them.
Oh, beautiful. Like it's a new style of celebration by joining by WhatsApp.
It's very difficult. I mean, many of the midwives that I know and love throughout the world are seeing their mothers usually on the iPad. It's not the same as touching the belly and putting my ear on your belly like we did yesterday. Yeah, that's a very difficult thing.
So, you know, I collected some questions from our ladies who are now pregnant and who like really excited like by this time what's coming, you know, quite a few of them like me giving birth like very soon. And they've been asking you, like you saw so many women, you know, so many years you're working with women, and based on your experience, to have like really gentle, successful birth, what do you think different in women who have like easy labor, not like maybe easy, but like really like, I don't know, maybe faster, maybe easier. What's the difference of them between those who like really like, for whom it becomes difficult?
It's a very difficult question because, for example, my daughter who gave birth just end of July, her first birth, she was very prepared. She's also a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine. She has her PhD in reproductive health. She's always grown up around birth. She's been a doula for many, many years. And she imagined that her birth would be so easy. But with the first baby, there was a complication. And this is something from the pollution of climate change in California. So with the water being polluted from the fires in California, which is a climate change issue. We have to call it climate crisis now. And so many of the mothers are finding that in the process of giving birth, the placenta is having issues. So my daughter had to go immediately to the hospital, change her birth plan, and have what I call a belly birth, a cesarean. Now this is still a miracle, and many mothers who have experienced a cesarean or a belly birth, they feel ashamed, they feel they failed. No, I feel like they have to be so in their heart to open their body by surgery for the safety of the baby. It's not easy. It's much more difficult in the postpartum. It's more difficult to accept. You know, I mean, my daughter had to go into her place, her space for grace, I call it, because she had to accept that even though she planned this perfect birth and all her sisters had the perfect birth, the wives of her brothers had the perfect birth, because they're my family, of course, and we prepared so well. But she had to go for this cesarean option. But she also knows that it saved her baby, and she was bleeding very profoundly. It saved her. So even though we don't like cesarean, we bless it. We bless it. We don't plan for it, but we bless it. And then now, in July, she was expecting her second baby, and she was supposed to come here. And by the time that she was ready to come here, in early May, the airport was closed, and there was no possibility for her to come. So I found a way to go to her. It was a crazy miracle. Literally, there were so few people on the airplane, I can't believe it. I mean, I was sleeping laying down, and I flew to her, and she was able to give birth normally, but not just normally, in this beautiful family bubble. And with her sister holding her, with our dear friend Cassandra, who's a midwife, who's just beautiful, with her husband holding her while she squatted. You know, she was getting in the water tub and getting out and then in the shower, and it was not an easy birth, but it was her birth as she wanted it at home. And so her plan was to come here and give birth at Bumi Sehat, but she ended up at home in America. And it's very hard because my daughter, her big sister lives in Texas, and my other daughter lives in California, but she was moving here, so they gave away their apartment. They had no home. They were really planning on just coming here. Wow. So I guess I want to say to mothers, plan for the birth of your imagination, of your dreams, but also be open to what will happen, because birth is like the fulcrum of karma. And I noticed, for example, even though my daughter had a very difficult birth with her son, he's 2 years old now, with Bear, it's like they have no karma between them. It's been so smooth, and I'm hoping it stays that way through his teenage years. But it's like she worked something through her soul that was the most difficult challenge, and she came out of it with gratitude. Yeah. So even when your heart is broken, even when your dreams are taken from you, if you just try to stay in your space of grace, if you can find your gratitude, it's a big possibility that in the end anyway, you know, life has a way, and birth has a way, even if it has to be by surgery, even if it cannot be the way you want it exactly. You know, I'm sure you have beautiful memories of your first two babies, and then you're planning your third baby to be your dream birth.
Yeah, and basically it doesn't matter how prepared you are, you still need to be open for anything that can happen. And I also thought like you said, also baby karma, you know, it's also different, and like it's life also will find its way. Thank you so much.
Yeah, birth is that fulcrum of karma. I don't know if this word fulcrum, it's like you know, one small touch can move a mountain. And if the baby needs that, that's what the baby will create. You know, I always say to the mothers, write a letter to your baby and share with the baby what is it that you want, and also let the baby know what you want. I'm also listening, I'm also open. Yeah,
because
so
it's true.
Being open is important. We had one mother here who wanted so much for her husband to be the one to catch the baby with his hands.
First, yeah?
Yes. And actually he's a doctor. And he said, no, I don't have the courage. I cannot do it. I cannot do it. I cannot do it.
Doctor?
A doctor.
Wow.
Imagine. But he's not a doctor of birth, so
Yeah.
he's a doctor for pathology, so for sickness. So he sees it all as sickness. And as it was, when her labor started, she could not control it. Second baby, it was so fast, she woke up and she felt the baby would come. So, and you have to walk to the rice fields to their house. So she called here and she said, Robin, I woke up, I cannot move, I feel the baby's coming. So I jumped on a motorcycle with another midwife and we went out to their house in the rice fields. And I was on the phone and I said, don't talk to me, just ask your husband to hold you, you know? And when we arrived, we were there in like 10 minutes. When we arrived, the husband was catching the baby as we opened the door. And so it was her dream, and she felt like it was her son's dream. And the father had to surrender to this incredible dream. And of course we were there to make sure that everything's okay afterwards, because it's after the baby's born that's so important, that the moments after is the most potential for something, sometimes to need help. So she was really happy to see us, but she was so happy that her husband received the baby into his hands.
And it's interesting when you want something, basically there is no guarantee you want it, yeah, because it's two of you, so maybe it's baby wish, yeah, it's so beautiful.
So I always say that little boy, he really wanted his father to catch him. And she was really, I mean, it was just perfect. And she actually bled quite a lot afterwards, so we were ready with the injection, the Pitocin, to stop the bleeding. And also she needed to be a few short stitches. And it was good that we were there and we were ready. I know in this time of COVID, like in the United States, many women, they're trying to find a midwife in areas where there's very few midwives. And the midwives are super busy because no one wants to go to the hospital because the hospital is dangerous. There's so much COVID there. So what I'm finding is some mothers are deciding to give birth without the help of a midwife. And this, I have to say, ask your heart, do I not deserve my women? I deserve my women to help me in case I need help. You know, it's about loving yourself enough to make some kind of plan and to find somebody. Yeah, it's really difficult. I had a friend in Australia, her first baby was born in Bumi Sehat. Her husband is Balinese, she's Australian. She wanted so badly to have her baby at home because the hospital where she would be forced to go was full of COVID patients. But for home birth in Australia, she and her husband don't have any money. And so she didn't know what to do, and she called me in the beginning of her labor on her birthday. And she was crying. She said, Robin, you know, the midwives here just say to me, just have my baby by myself. And she's a student midwife too. So she said, but I don't feel right. I feel afraid. And she said, I've already been in labor for so many hours and nothing is working, just pain. It's not coming. And so I said, hold on. I called a friend who's in Australia, who's a midwife. She was there visiting from Indonesia, but then they closed Australia. So she got stuck there for 6 months. So I called my friend. She was working, my friend was working in Papua in our clinic there, in the Bumi Sehat in Papua. But she just went to Australia to visit a friend and closed. And I said, Augustine, I know now why you got stuck in Australia. Wow. I said, can you go to my friend's house because Bernice will have the baby today. And she's so afraid. And she needs a midwife. And my friend said, I'm walking to the car now, I'm running. And it was perfect. It was a perfect fit. Even though she never even met Augustine before, the mother, the father, they fell in love immediately. They had, you know, and the little boy fell in love with her immediately. And then they had the baby brother.